Welcome to How VolleyTalk. Alongside Here's Nassen. I'm Elliot Skelly. Joining us today, former Bradley Jaguar, 2021 State Player of the Year, and current pro player overseas, Jonah Gilbert. Jonah, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Hey, I just want to set the scene here a little bit. 2022, year after you graduated, Drew Mountie, who plays for Elder, set the Elder kill record in a single season by over 100. He had 392, one Player of the Year. Your senior season, you had 874. It's like more than doubling him. That's ridiculous. What I heard, through the grapevine is that your coach at one point decided, hey, you know what, we're just going to set Jonah pretty much every play and see how far it takes us. What did that preseason decision look like, and when did you start to get a feeling that maybe you had something going there?
So it honestly started my freshman year of high school Bradley is always like, we've never had more than two club players on our team at the same time. Like, it's never really been like a volleyball school. And so it was my freshman year. Like, there was a point where I was like, okay, am I going to set? And then my coach was like, well, you're the only offense we got. So we turned, there was a kid that I played with him seventh grade to senior year. He, unsung hero of our team, setter, tack, tam.
My gosh. Could you lay it up there better if you're tack tam?
How do you to get that set from the back row like that into the perfect spot, timing it out?
We decided to put him at setter, and then from there, me and him just built that connection, and it worked out very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of working out really well, you guys won your conference, a regional final. You won the state quarterfinals and eventually fell to eventual champion Moeller in the state semifinals. Yeah. How incredible was that run?
It was cool. It was very cool. Obviously, the ring, like, not getting that hurt, because you just, like, to even get to that point, you have to, like, in your mind, you have to convince yourself you are winning. There's no other option. Like, losing just isn't an option. So when you do eventually lose, it happens. It happens to me literally every single season because I've yet to win a cool championship, but it's heartbreaking for sure. But to get to that point was cool, especially for Bradley. We've never made it to the Final Four in any sport, let alone volleyball. So that was cool.
That Moeller matchup really felt like David versus Goliath. Like you said, Bradley that does not get to Final Fours, and a Moeller who just pretty much lives there every year. What was that atmosphere like? And also, like, what was it like to take that set from them?
It was cool. It was cool because I knew a lot of the guys like growing up playing club against them and playing club with a couple of them. So like I knew of most of the guys on that team, it felt like. And so it was cool to, I don't know, just in front of it, because there was a lot of people, even though it was still COVID. There's a fair amount of people, and to that point, I think that was probably the biggest crowd I had played in front of. And so it was cool to, like, it felt like I was performing at points instead of playing. Like, it was a good vibe.
Well, you had several matches where you took upwards of 60 to 70 swings, looking at just your psyche and your attack. How much did physical durability play into your strategy that season?
Yeah, so because my dad started tracking it after my sophomore year of high school, like how many, he would just tally mark every time I got set because he was worried about my shoulder and that I was going to blow out my shoulder before I even get to college. And so it was pretty much anytime we'd go more than 4 sets, I was getting over 100 attempts. And so because of that, I would just live in the ice bath, wouldn't practice. When I was doing a lot of knee rehab to get my knees right, because my shoulder was fine. And to this day, it's still just my knees they struggle sometimes. But yeah, not practicing was definitely, I think looking back on it, I should have gone into that season a little more prepared, a little more in shape, and then I could have practiced, and I think we could have maybe made it to the finals or made it to the championship, and I don't know.
I'd say you did okay either way. But you went on to commit to GCU. What did that recruiting process look like for you, and how'd you land on them?
Yeah, so I was kind of unofficially commit to Pepperdine for a while, and that fell through after a lot of stuff happened, and it was one of those things that, I don't know, from an early age, GCU is one of those schools I was like, okay, they're a West Coast school, but they're in Arizona. There's just always something to it that I was like, it was drawing me there. And then it being a Christian school, I claim Christianity. And so just the whole spiral of everything. And then, I knew I wanted to play in the West Coast. I knew I didn't want to go East. I knew I didn't want to stay in the Midwest. And so it just seemed like the best way to get there.
Yeah, for sure. You also played on one of the best club teams to ever come out of Ohio.
A nova geração, é esse homem aí, ó.
several Division I college commits, including Cole Young at Ohio State, Kurt Nuster at Hawaii, both of them at the NCAA national tournament earlier this month in Long Beach.
Mhm.
How did playing at Vanguard prepare you for your college journey?
It prepares you. Those coaches, I'll stand by it. They know what they're talking about. If you can handle, that's the big thing. It's not for the weak of heart. It's not for someone that for the Vanguard philosophy and what I've seen playing there since I was 13. It's not the having fun happens when you win. It's all about winning. And even in practice, it's structured like that. Like if you win, you'll have a fun practice. You might not run that much. You might not you'll break a sweat, you'll be working, but it'll be fun the whole time. If you're losing at practice though, it'll be tough to show up that Saturday morning. And so in being in a culture like that and the way that those coaches run practices, the way that they go about the game, I was learning how to study film my 17th year. I feel like that's pretty early compared to a lot of kids. And so they really make sure you're a student of the game. They make sure you're physically prepared. They make sure you're playing high level volleyball, high level physical volleyball.
100%. Well, you decided not to use your full eligibility in college and instead opted to play overseas professionally in Denmark. What went into that decision?
It was a lot. This is I don't like to say it like this, but I haven't found another way to say it. Really came down to I'd rather get paid to play a game than pay to play a game, if that makes sense. And it also went into it. I wasn't going to go to college before I started getting recruited. I was going to be a welder. I was going to go to trade school, and that was my path. And I was very happy with that. And then I started getting recruited, and I was like, okay, might as well give it a shot. But after a while, it was one of those things. My brother's already overseas, and so I saw what he was doing, and I was like, yeah, that just seems inherently better than what I'm going through.
Again, big transition going from all the way from the US over to Europe. What was your experience like in your first pro season?
It was fun. They play volleyball differently. They play volleyball differently than we've ever than we can even, I hate to say comprehend, but there's a guy on my team. He was 35 years old, had what we call a credit card vertical. You flip a credit card on the side, see if you can jump over that, and then you flip it over one more time, see if you can jump over that. He had that, but he was one of our most successful attackers in practice because my pinky still looks a little janky. He
Yikes.
literally just turns, swings, and hits it as hard as he possibly can off of your hands every single time. And it's frustrating because, for me, I have a good vertical and I just try to press over the net, and then he's hitting off my elbows every single time, and I can't stop it. And so, they just guys like that, you come across them where it's wow, you just figured out you made volleyball meta. And I feel like we haven't really figured that out in the United States, But it was fun. It was a big transition for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Talked
Yeah.
about the pro leagues, talked about Europe, talked about the United States. What advice do you have for players looking to follow in your footsteps and play professionally?
Oh, don't give up too early, and don't think that it's unreachable. For instance, my brother, he didn't go to a major D1 school. He went to a Conference Carolina school, a very good one. But even him, that's a pretty simple step. You can go from NAIA to pro. You can go from club volleyball to school to pro. It's really, if you can get an agent that is a fan of you. So you need a guy that knows European clubs, and he needs to be a fan of you. If he likes the way that you play volleyball, you will get a roster spot. And so, and don't think that just because the first year, oh, this isn't good money, the money always improves. You just need to prove yourself in Europe. Once you can prove yourself in Europe, you can start working your way up through the leagues.
Well, man, you mentioned him a couple times, but your older brother, Jackson Gilbert, he played at Bradley. He's playing professionally in Europe. Do you take any inspiration from him in your volleyball journey?
Oh yeah, big time, big time. I wouldn't be playing volleyball without him. I'd be another failed basketball player, to be honest. I'd still be following the basketball dream, but he just kept me grounded the whole time. Anytime where I was oh, I'm getting to a next level player, I would see where he's playing at that time, and I'd be like, well, no, there's an even higher level above this, and let me tell you, it hasn't stopped. Even this year, I was watching his pro team. I was like, yep, that is just still ahead of where I'm at, but it's what the grind's about.
100%. Well, hey, man, thanks for coming on. I think
sure.
you're playing for France next year, right?
I am. Yeah,
So that'll be sweet. Good luck there, and thanks for coming on.
for sure, for sure.
All right, that was Jonah Gilbert. Thanks to him for coming on. Another guest, second guest in the episode, Bentley Meyer, alum of St. X 2023 State Player of the Year. Bentley, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Doing pretty good. Now, first I got to ask, you're playing in college, St. Vincent Mary of the Woods. How's that going for you?
It's going really, really well. So it's a new program. So I mean, this is the second year going into their third. So it's still fresh. Love the coach, love the guys. It's a great experience. Like playing in college. I mean, you can't really get much better than that on scholarship. So living the dream over there.
That's awesome to hear. Well, hey, reason we brought you on, Liberty St. X, huge matchup this Saturday. Both teams 25-1 with losses to each other. X beat Liberty in a best-of-3 match in 3 sets at Liberty's home quad when Liberty was without libero Austin Mallory. Liberty beat X in the finals of the Centerville Elite 8 in 4 when X was without Joe Taggart. Now, I think all the respect in the world to Darby and St. Ignatius, and I mean that, but I think this is the state championship matchup right here. I think the
Agreed.
winner of this will win the state championship. And this is, to take it even a step further, this is something I've talked to Bill Ferris and Dave Hale, both of them, about. With the level of volleyball increasing as it has in the past couple decades, I think this is the highest level volleyball match ever played in Ohio high school history, period.
No, I'd agree with you. 100%. Like going into when I saw the polls, like Liberty and X would meet each other in the semifinals, I was like, whoa. And then I was talking to my parents about it, and we were talking about that is literally the state championship match, what you just said, using your own words. It's crazy to me that the level of skill and the level of talent that the Columbus area has brought, because in the past, I've had 2 older brothers that played, and it's just really, really cool to see like over time, because watching from early 2011s to now, it's just crazy to see the level of competition in Columbus and Akron and Cincinnati. All of it is just getting so much better now that the sport is sanctioned by OHSAA. You're seeing a lot of new programs and a lot of new players going into club. So honestly, the biggest thing from last year that I've seen with Liberty is just like the amount of competition that they face and that we have faced too. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's ridiculous to see the progress that many teams have gotten. And I think the reason that these are the best teams in the state right now, and probably the best matchup that we've had, is because all these other teams are getting so good and we have so much better competition to play against, and it's only making these guys better. You know what I mean? And it's so cool to see the highest level teams go at each other. And I'm just really excited to see it at Wittenberg on Saturday.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing too is just the growth overall, right? Liberty's just been kind of a mainstay too, bringing most of their starting lineup back, which kind of brings me to my question, because you faced this team 2 times last year, one at a quad in Berlin, the other time at the Centerville Elite Tournament. What have you seen from this team, and how did they pick you guys apart?
So the biggest thing with Liberty is obviously Caden Whiteside, right? I mean, he is just a fantastic outside hitter. Like you can't really get much better than Caden Whiteside when it comes to the best player in the state going into the state tournament, when it comes to skill, when it comes to talent. And not only Caden Whiteside, but they have solid middles. I mean, they're just a great team all around. So it just makes for a great battle at high level, because it kind of reminds me of college, because college teams have a bunch of guys that know how to play volleyball. They've played volleyball, they've played club, they've been there, done that. And they go at each other. You know what I mean? It's going to be a battle, like every time you go in. And when it comes to picking each other apart, like St. X is a great team, but Liberty is also a great team. So it's just going to be picking each other apart and whoever comes out on top. You know what I mean? Like it's going to be a crazy matchup. Coming from last year, they had a Sullenberger, I believe, as their libero last year, and he was unreal. He was unbelievable last year, but their libero this year, I've heard, is very, very good. I've not had a chance to see Liberty play, but I have seen film, and it's amazing to see like the college level athletes that high school is producing right now, and at these 2 schools, St. X and Liberty, and it's so cool to see.
Yeah, Austin Mallory, the libero for Liberty. Now, what are your thoughts on that regional final win against Moeller? They swept them, and they went 4-0 against them this year, which is pretty impressive.
Andrew Berkemeyer, top spin. Overpass. And Joe Taggart! Nice! Joe Taggart has set the Bombers to the Final Four!
Yeah. So I was actually at that game on Saturday. So the biggest thing I saw was just the domination that the team at St. X has right now. Just the fact that they have no holes. Moeller this year, more last year, lost a lot of pieces like Brody Threm. They lost Ben Haggard. They lost Will Patterson, obviously. So coming off of that kind of season with those kind of players that they built off of the last couple of years, they had some holes. So, and St. X was able to, because honestly, St. X really has no holes this year. So it was just I think we just played better volleyball when it comes to like how we won the game. Like Moeller played a great game, but when it came to mistakes, when it came down to the small things, St. X definitely came on top. And there were times where Moeller went on their runs, and there were times where we went on our runs. But honestly, like it just seemed like we had control most of the game. So it was just really good to see, like, in the regional final, because the last 3 years that I played in high school, my sophomore, junior, and senior, we didn't have those pieces, or we didn't have the mental capacity to stay in the game. You know what I mean? And it's really cool to see St. X now and how far the guys have come, because I played with most of those guys, just to finally get to that next step, get to the state tournament. You know what I mean? It's really cool to see. But honestly, it was a really good volleyball match. Like, I know we won in 3, but there were ups and downs for both sides. But honestly, we just played a better volleyball game, I think.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think
that's
the
gotta
one
feel
thing-
good to see your
Oh,
teammates
yeah.
get to state tournament. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that is a sweet feeling. It was so sweet just to see all the guys like Aiden Berkemeyer, Andrew Berkemeyer. It was cool to see Brady, just all of them finally get the opportunity to, compete at that level, go finally chase a ring. You know what I mean? Like, that's the ultimate high school dream when it comes to sports, is you got to chase the ring. So it's just good to see them get that opportunity at Wittenberg, rather than sitting on the sidelines and watching.
Yeah, I think the one thing too, just to talk about that Moeller rivalry, I remember it was a couple years ago after you guys played them at their place, and head coach, or not head coach, but Coach Chardon, he showed me just a graphic of all the point differentials between St. X and Moeller over the past 10 meetings, and it very rarely goes above 20 on either side. And it just feels like over the past year or so, especially this year, the fact that the Bombers have been able to beat the Crusaders all this time, it kind of shows a little bit of a momentum change, if you will, because I mean, you think about it, right? 2 consecutive years. You were on the court for all of those 5-set losses, 2021, 2022, 2023. Do you feel like there's somewhat of a change in terms of the program? I know you're not a part of it now, but just
Right.
looking back at it, do you feel like there's some sort of change in the growth within that side?
So I think the biggest thing, because it was actually funny, because I practiced with those guys earlier today. So just seeing the different guys up there, I think the biggest thing that changed is the young guys. So if you see our JVB and our JVA teams, they dominated throughout the 2021, 2022, 2023. All those guys, they dominated when it came to the GCL sports, when it came to, honestly, in the state. I don't think our JV team lost a single set last year. I mean, I might be wrong, but they definitely didn't lose a match. So it's just seeing those guys develop and keep getting better from where they already are compared to other programs, other teams. So it's just about building those quality players that we've had, like, not on the varsity level, just having them compete at the varsity level now, and seeing how all the other guys, all the other teams have come up. I mean, I think it's just translating well to what they've done and what Coach Snowden, Coach Bobby have done at the JV level, because they're fantastic people. They're fantastic coaches that really build players on a great foundation, on a great baseline. And you know what I mean? And just handing them to Coach Ferris, honestly, I don't think much has changed. It's just the fact that we've brought in a lot of great young guys and now are finally getting older, and it's just starting to watch them play, start to watch them grow up a little bit. It's really, really cool just to see how good they've become. Like, I don't think much has changed in the program, like you said, but just to see those guys really develop and get better has been probably the biggest thing.
Now, the one thing that we've talked about all year, Liberty has definitely been the more consistent team compared to X. Now, like we've talked about, serving usually is the reason why X is dropping sets to teams. Liberty, outside of X, has not dropped a set all year. Now, of course, 14 of those league matches are pretty easy wins. You can pretty much throw them away in anything. But, the regional final win over Pick North, obviously Pick North not as good a team as Moeller, still a really good team in their own regard. There was never a time that I felt that Pick North had a chance. It was always waiting for Liberty to win. How do you think that X needs to deal with these consistency issues and play a good game in semifinals?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing with X is, like you said, the serving consistency. But another thing is the emotional side of it, right? Like, a lot of the guys are still hurt from the other years before, like, talking to them, they want it so bad, right? But when it comes to playoffs, I think they're going to show up. But throughout the season, it was just an emotion. Like, like I'm sure a lot of teams that go through this that have heard about the same thing. Like having too big of an ego, having too big of a head, because coming in, I think like the guys were max preps 13th in the nation, something like that. So I think it's just going into teams and expecting them to blow them out. You know what I mean? And Liberty has been a team that has been losing. I mean, I'm not going to bash them for it, but they have lost a lot more than X has lost in the past 4 years, right? So they're a lot more used to losing. They're used to having that feel when it comes to being down, having to overcome some adversity, right? But St. X, for the most part, and one of the problems last year was, how do you overcome the adversity? How are you going to respond when somebody punches you back in the face? You know what I mean? Because I don't think they really realize that other teams have the capability to beat them, right? Because we expect to go in there and win, in 3, but it's about how they respond to another, like how they get responded to, if that makes sense, And I think Liberty has done a really good job over the past few years of developing guys that are used to being down in the trenches and fighting back out of it. You know what I mean? And I think when you get to a point, and especially their senior years, since most of them are seniors and high level players, they're at the point where it's rock solid. You know what I mean? They know what they need to do. They know what to expect, and I think that's the biggest thing with Liberty is just compared to St. X, right? And I think St. X, the last year's loss, the year before that's lost. I mean, we've only lost four times the last 2 years, right? So it's very hard to predict how they're going to be this year, And when it comes to the state semifinals, because I honestly the fact that Liberty has lost more games, but this year has just been absolutely dominant, just gives them another confidence factor, So I think just the biggest thing for St. X to look out is just stay rock solid mentally. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's pretty much what I was going to say there.
Can I get a prediction from you? How's it going to go this Saturday?
I got X and 4. That's just me. I think they're going to drop either the first two, one of the first 2 sets. It'll go 1-1, and then it's just, I think St. X will just end up taking it. That's just my personal prediction.
Hey.
I think, Bombers on top for me.
Here, what do you got?
You know what? I have to agree with you, Bentley. I think St. X, it feels like both times there's the missing piece ideal, right? Austin Mallory is not for Liberty in the first game. Joe Taggart's not playing for St. X in the second game.
Mm-hmm.
I think with both of them back, I just feel like both of them are just key players. But the way St. X plays, and I feel like I saw this on Saturday just from afar, is the way that they're able to just set up defensively. That was the biggest change I've seen from this team compared to last year. I'm thinking about Max Romeo specifically. He just had 3 great solo blocks in that second set of the game. And shout out to Nicholas Glynn, Andrew Tressler, Tyler Bush, the guys calling the games for ESPX. They take from Anthony France and I, very energetic. But to my point, he's just a guy that can just stand up for himself. He's very robust. That's the word I'd use to describe his play. There's a lot of guys like Max, and there's a lot of guys on that team, whether they're in the 6 or off the bench, that can truly make a difference.
Funny you mentioned the Max Romeo part, because we were talking about it. I was sitting with Thomas Tran in the bleachers, and when Max got those blocks, we went nuts that game. That was the total energy shift. Oh my gosh, you know what I mean? Seeing Max out there succeed, get his blocks, get his stuff in. That was definitely the turning point for the match. I think he had a solo block on Gessel Brock, and me and Thomas just ended up, bumping into each other, going nuts. So it was really cool. Just thought I'd mention that.
I'm going to go against the grain here. I like X to go up 2-0, and I like Liberty to reverse sweep to get back to the state championship to avenge their reverse sweep championship loss to Moeller last year.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
That was. They got the player of the year, Caden Whiteside. Got the coach of the year, Dave Hale. It's going to be a battle. Really, really excited to see how that's going to go down. But I got Liberty in 5. Are we going to see you at the match?
Wow, you are. I'm going to be up there. No matter St. X wins or loses, I'm going to be up there for the state final to watch it. So I'll be up there both days.
Yeah, that'll be sweet. Really looking forward to that. Bentley, man, thanks for your time. We'll see you this Saturday.
Yeah, no, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you guys letting me come on here.
All right, thanks to both of our guests today. First double guest episode besides the state championships we've done ever, so that's pretty cool. So hey, looking at the rest of the games in that state tournament, the first one, the Division I with Darby versus St. Ignatius. Now this is a rematch of the first round of the Centerville Elite 8 tournament. Darby won that in 5 over St. Ignatius. Obviously the big thing for Darby, the big thing with this match overall, Chris Jones is back, right? And we saw him against Thomas Worthington in the regional final. Darby won that in 4 sets. He seemed pretty dang effective. He's able to put it down on the right. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, I think it's just 2 teams that have just grown overall. You talked about Chris Jones and Darby struggled a little bit in that first set overall as a team, and then just kind of really took it at Thomas Worthington. Just a really interesting first and second set with the type of parity we saw from the Panthers. Ignatius on the other side, it feels like this is a team that's started to get some growth going. And even though they do have some young pieces, such as Jack Reagan, who's a sophomore, he's playing like one of the best outsides in Region 2. Dare I say, one of the best outsides in state with the way he can put balls down. He's just ferocious on that left side. It's going to be a very, very close game, but I think it will come down to how the offense just dictates the pace, you know. And I think not just Chris Jones, but Aiden Kolb as well, right? A guy that you talked about earlier this season, you weren't that happy with his move from libero to outside hitter, but at the same time, he continues to make all state, he continues to make all region, and he continues to do well.
Okay, that's not what I said. I didn't say the move for him was bad. I said that it spoke to a lack of pin depth for Darby, because I don't know anyone who would willingly take a first-team All-State libero and put him in a pin unless they really needed pins. That was my concern. Obviously, Darby's doing well for themselves, keeping it going. Now, also a different Ignatius team, right, than we saw at that Elite Eight. This is an Ignatius team that got swept by Brecksville and then turns around, sweeps Brecksville in the regional final. Kind of proves us wrong, proves that they deserve the 1 seed as the best team in the region. Well, maybe not deserve the 1 seed, but they are the best team in the region, right? They proved that. So I don't know. That's pretty cool to see. I don't know. I mean, I think I see this one going extra sets. I think it'll be the last matchup of the night on that Saturday night. So that'll be pretty cool to see. Winner of it gets a date in the state championship with either Liberty or X. I mean, yeah, really will be really cool. Again, I don't think that either team really has a shot at beating X or Liberty. I mean, you know, you don't want to disregard opponents, right? But we're not playing Saturday. I think from an objective perspective, there's no way it's not going to be X or Liberty.
Yeah, and I think that's the bigger thing of that. It's just kind of weird how the random drawing worked. I mean, I was thinking about it earlier. You get it one other way, and we have Liberty St. X in the state title. But anyhow, just looking at Darby Ignatius, that will be a close game. But I think the way Coach Dom's team is peaking at the right moment will help them out on Saturday. So I think Ignatius takes it in 4.
I would agree with that. I like Ignatius in 4 as well. All right, so and then our Division II matchups. First, we'll talk about McNicholas Independence. Independence and McNicholas both back for the second straight year. Independence only been a program for 2 years. This is their second year in the state tournament, so that's pretty cool. I mean, you could say what you will about competitiveness in the region, but that in alone is a pretty great accomplishment for a program that's so new. McNicholas, obviously, they've been here before. They had a really epic 5-set win over Bishop Fenwick. We were speculating whether or not they could get it done, but ultimately McNick comes out on top. They're playing like one of the best teams in Division II. It's tough for me to see that any situation where this isn't McNick in 3.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you on that. I think the biggest thing with how Independence may come out is, do they play close? Are they competitive? And we saw that at times against DeSales where it was 25-19 at some points, but at other times it's 25-5, 25-6. So it'll be interesting to see how Lexi Procopius' side plays this game. Same with Julie Mulvey as well, and see how, if you will, for McNick, you know, I'm not saying that it's kind of a pass to the state title, but at the same time, a much easier competition than what you've been facing already. So give me McNick in 3, because I just feel like they're a much stronger team. And I also think they're a stronger team than where they were last year.
On the other side, we got St. Charles versus St. Vincent St. Mary. St. Vincent St. Mary, this is their 3rd straight year in the state tournament. You know, they've been here before. They got a great win over Hoban. St. Charles, though, man, they're a different animal this year. You know, they've always been near and around the top of D2, but it's different this year. We talked about like how many great players they have. That Ned Gruber's coach of the year, Maladen Tay, Division II player of the year, and you know it's funny. You got second team all conference, which I thought was hilarious. Like, how are you second team all conference and Division II player of the year? But I mean, they had 3 guys on first team, so I guess, you know, just a little bit difference opinion, but still funny. But you know, they have so many guys. I mean, they had 4 guys get the points for first team all region, and 2 had to be bumped out to second team. Like that's pretty special. You do not see that kind of dominance a whole lot. And we've talked about this St. Charles team has played with everyone at Division I level. The only one they've lost to is St. X, and then they took a loss to Fenwick, not in it anymore. So I mean, you know, they've beaten Pick North, beaten Mount Vernon. I mean, they've had some really quality Division I wins. I like St. Charles coming out in 3.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you on that. We already saw St. Charles sweep St. Vincent St. Mary earlier this year in a home try. And going back to your point, this is a team that's very consistent. This is a team that's getting into the right moment, and they have been at the right moment throughout. You know, we talked to Ned Gruber. Why do you go down to St. X for one of your first matches of the year? Well, it's about getting used to the competition. It's about getting used to a higher power, if you will. And the way they've been able to play in Division I, even in Division II as well, only 1 loss in the year. in that category, and that was to Fenwick in that home try where they swept same as St. Mary right after. So again, I like what the Cardinals are doing, and they're back at state for the first time in 6 years, so they got a lot to prove.
All right, that'll do it for our final episode before the state tournament. We hear any final thoughts?
Head out to Wittenberg if you can. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm making the trip all the way from Phoenix. So this is the biggest weekend of the year. We all know it's the biggest weekend of the year, and there's a lot of matchups to see. Let's see who gets the crown.
Yeah, lots of really great matches. Really interested to see how it's going to come out. Second year in a row, we're going to be at the state tournament. So that'll be really cool. Also, stay tuned for our episode the night before the state championship. So after we take in the 4 semifinals, we'll give you our breakdown and our predictions for the next day. Stay tuned for that. That'll be out Saturday night, probably late because, we have to drive back and record it and then upload it. But it'll be out. Maybe you watch it the morning of the state championships. And then after that, the episode where hopefully we'll have both state championship head coaches on at Division I and Division II. So lots to look forward to. Really exciting time of the year. With that, this has been Ohio VolleyTalk, and we will catch you next week.